Alrighty then. Welcome back, truth seekers, happiness seekers. As the description says, the World Economic Forum is still the topic of the week or the month. This is 2 of 5 for the World Economic Forum. I did discuss the World Economic Forum in a more broader sense before, but these are the actual points that they're saying that are the problems that they've decided that they're going to try to conquer in accordance with their 2030 agenda, which includes the fate of mankind, not the prosperity of mankind, as they said in last year's. Now, point number 2, they're addressing the current high inflation, low growth, high debt economy in the context of new system for investment, trade, and infrastructure. Well, that's a big mouthful, isn't it? Addressing current high inflation. Did they create the inflation? They control the money. High inflation. Low growth. Well, we have low growth because of high inflation. They control the money. They control the companies and corporations that hire people, which would cause growth by hiring people, causing more people to have a little bit more money and putting money back into the economy, which keeps the economy flowing, which would take care of the low growth thing. The high debt economy. So the economy is based on debt. I'm not sure where they're coming from with that, right? Because the American economy is all about debt. Net worth equals your debt. How much debt you have is what your net worth is. So in the context of a new system for investments, okay, so those 3 things, addressing high inflation, low growth, high debt economy, section off in the context of a new system for investment. So now they're going to create a new thing for everybody to invest in, comma, trade and infrastructure. So they have to expand infrastructure, whatever that means. They're going to have a new trade, which, going back to point number 1, which is the other video, previous one to this one, video number 1 at WEF, they're talking about the energy crisis and the transportation industry and the food industry. Okay? So I would assume that it goes back to that. So let's read this paragraph that they're talking about. Policymakers are now operating with limited physical space, while inflationary pressure is forcing a tightening of monetary policy. Tighter monetary policies are also having knock-on effects on emerging markets, with many now struggling to service their debts. So they're mad because people aren't paying their debt because they don't have the money because of the inflation, which they created. So, protectionist measures also threatened the global trade agenda, which was at the center of the economic prosperity for the last 30 years. This comes following the COVID-19 pandemic, which has pushed 120 million additional people into extreme poverty and exposed the underfunding of critical infrastructure across the markets. Underfunding of critical infrastructure. So they're talking about infrastructure. Critical infrastructure, emergency infrastructure. And they're saying that's underfunded. So critical infrastructure, which looks like what they're talking about when they reference the pandemic, is the vaccination industry, the governmental controlled industry for emergency services and things of that nature. So apparently they're underfunded. And usually what happens when somebody funds that, you have to abide by their guidelines. We'll give you this much money if you do this. Am I biased? Yes. Have I seen this before? Oh, yeah. I'm a little bit older, and this is how businesses make money, right? We'll give you this money to invest in you as long as you abide by our guidelines. That's how it works. That's the contract, right? When the government gives you a grant, they give you the grant. Let's say you're a restaurant. You get a restaurant grant. You cannot run out and buy everybody a day at the spa. You have to buy restaurant equipment, right? You have to buy things that are associated to that. That's part of the deal, right? So when an investor comes in, they want to see a turnaround profit, and they want to see some form of regulation control. Because if they don't get the profit, they want the control. Those are the two things that are always involved. There's no reason for somebody to invest their money unless they have some sort of control, or they're going to receive some sort of profit, or both. We're going to put this guy in charge. We're going to give you $50 million, but we're going to put this guy in charge to make sure our money is used properly. And now with that individual comes all these new policies. Control. All right. In a multipolar world, refashioning the economic agenda along strategic lines and rebuilding trust in the international system will take careful collaboration between all stakeholders and new vision for economic prosperity and development. So why do we need a new vision for economic prosperity and development? We don't need one. They do. Because the one that they're using is not working the way that they wanted it to. So let's back that up a little bit further. In a multipolar world, refashioning the economic agenda along strategic lines, so they have a strategy for 2030. It's called the New World Order. Okay? That's a completely different topic for several videos. So they're going to refashion the economic agenda along strategic lines. What does that mean? So the economic agenda has to meet their strategery for 2030. So in order to meet their strategic outcome for 2030, or their New World Order, they have to refashion the economic agenda, which means there's going to be a lot more changes because they had a plan. They started in 1970. They're having pushback from, well, the system that they created, because we're not playing by their rules, which means the slave is not obeying the master. Because make no doubt that that's how they see us. We apply for a job. We say that I want to be your slave and you give me money. I'll do whatever you want me to do, just give me money. That's slavery. Unless, of course, you want to call yourself a hoe. Neither one is very good, right? So, the next part of that, they're rebuilding trust in the international system. It's not trust in the people, it's trust in the system. So they're going to create another system through the economic agenda, right? They're refashioning the economic agenda and rebuild trust in that system. So they're going to be trying to convince people to have trust in this new economic system. We don't have anywhere to go but up, at least in the United States, and a lot of the world's currencies are based off the US dollar. So guess what? They're forcing people to trust in the international system. So since I was in the Navy, it's what I found out, it's very difficult to convince somebody from a different country that you're there to give them freedom, and they must take your freedom from the pointy end of a rifle. Very difficult, convincing tactic to have them trust you when you're pointing a rifle at them, telling them that their lifestyle isn't good and yours is better because you have more freedom. Because the way it looks to everybody else is that you're pointing a rifle at me and you're coming up with something that says freedom, but what is the cost of that freedom? That is always the case. So, trust in the international system that they're about to create, or else. It's not that they're going to point a rifle at you. They'll just shut off your bank account. Or your car, if it's electric. Some of the newer ones, they can shut those off too, like OnStar, they can shut those off. The little ones with the key fob, that you need the key fob in order to start your car and you don't need to put a key in the ignition, they can shut those off too. So, trust in the international system will take careful collaboration between all stakeholders. Careful collaboration between all stakeholders. That sounds like a conspiracy to me. Careful collaboration means that there are going to be a bunch of people trying to convince the populations to fall in line and do what Klaus Schwab wants you to do. Which I'm sure Klaus, as an 80-year-old man, wants to see change before he dies. He wants to see that he has made a significant change in the entire world, which there's quite a few other people at his level at the same age that want to see the same thing, which is basically the purpose of the World Economic Forum, is to create some sort of change for whatever purpose. But as Klaus Schwab is a German from, 80 years ago, I must say it's quite curious on what his true motives are. If you go back 80 years, you might find a different ideology in Germany than what we have today. So, a new vision for economic prosperity and development. What does that mean? From the viewpoint of people such as Klaus Schwab, who are talking about old school methodologies from Germany from 80 years ago. So what are we talking about? 1950. Yeah. About 1950. Well, 1945. 1945 seems a lot like around the time of World War II. And I do recall that the master race was something that was not shut down for some time after the war. But that's a line that I cannot draw. But good old Klaus did have family money back then, and he came from Germany. It's curious on where he got it from. Because in World War II, they took money from everybody. They took the gold teeth out of the Jewish folk, for crying out loud. They wanted that money so bad. Golden teeth, ripped them right out. So they stole money from everybody. Why is it that Klaus Schwab and his family made it through that without incident? I don't know. A certain agenda for 2030 a new vision for economic prosperity and development. I am a bit biased, and I am coming at it from a alternate viewpoint. But I want to know what their true agenda is, and they're not going to be returning my phone calls, even if I did get access to their phone number. But I can look at it from my perspective. I have a few years in the Navy, and I have a few years as an intelligence analyst. And I see words in here that are quite concerning, that can mean several different things, which is why I did mention about quantum language earlier in other videos. A lot of these words mean several different things, and the way that they're put together does not bode well for the general population of the planet. The people that are working from paycheck to paycheck, which in the United States is about 65% right now, if not more than that. So I don't see anything in here that's going to benefit the lower level people, which is probably, well, it's 65% of Americans. Other countries are not doing as well as we are. And in some cases, our poverty level would be outlandish to third world countries. I know that it was when I was in Pakistan, Afghanistan. It was ridiculous how much money we made compared to what they did, because their cost of living is so low. And the things that they need are not what we need. I mean, what? I got a fucking $1,200 cell phone sitting right over there. I got 2 laptop computers right here. I got a bunch of equipment. I got books, right? I got a curtain with Sleipnir back there. Looks pretty, doesn't he? Yep. So I got plenty of stuff that people in third world countries, they don't have even this much stuff. This is just my basement room, which the rest of it looks kind of shitty, but I don't point the camera that way. Different ideas on what is needed to survive or to live. And we have such an attachment to the physical things. We think that material objects bring us happiness, even for 2 seconds. It's like opening a present every day. Every time you buy something, you get to open it up. It doesn't bring you happiness for an extended period of time. And it's definitely not something you need. Why do we have so many freaking knickknacks hanging around the shelves? Isn't they pretty? What are they for? They're pretty. Okay. What are they for? To look at. Okay. They're not. They may make somebody feel nice whenever they look at them, but why does it take a physical object to feel happy? Because that's what we associate with happiness as Americans. Physical objects. I have more toys than you, therefore I win. Doesn't matter the quality, matters the quantity. My house is bigger than yours. Size. Everything's bigger in Texas. Texas steak. Albeit, you only need 8 ounces of steak for a human male. 6 ounces for a female. But a Texas-sized steak, is, I don't know, what is it? It sure as fuck ain't 8 ounces. You're probably feeling a whole family off of that in some other country. But as an American, we're taught to not share, right? Because that's what your mama taught you. Don't share. They tell you the words you need to share, but then when they're walking out the door, they go, hey, where are the keys to my car? For the World Economic Forum, we don't know what we want as Americans because we're taught to buy everything, which feeds into the World Economic Forum. So their new vision for economic prosperity and development means more or less more of the same. It's just they're going to redirect our attention to buy the next shiny shit. Because we have ADOS. Attention, deficit, shiny. And we're going to buy the next shiny object, which is going to lead to the electric cars. Because that's the way that they want us to go, is go for the electric cars. To hell with making electric airplanes or electronic ships or nuclear power plants to replace the coal. They sure as hell are not going to shut down the oil industry. They own it. Why would they do that? As long as we continue to buy stuff, in the oil industry, by the way, that's plastics as well, made from crude oil. One of the main ingredients, not the whole thing, but just main ingredients, right? So they're going to continue to make this stuff. Well, we got this electrical thing, but we need backup generators. They have to be run by fuel. But it's going to be, we're going to lift the sanctions. We're going to lift the American supplement that they're paying towards our fuel, and it's going to be $8 a liter, just like it is in Japan. A liter. $8. Right now, we think it's bad. $2 and, was it, $3 per gallon for regular gasoline. A gallon, 2.2 liters equals 1 gallon. And Japan is paying $8 for 1 fucking liter. Well, that was back in 1991, right? When fuel prices were, I think they were $1.20 for a gallon of fuel, or $1.50 for a gallon of fuel, right? So they're probably paying $12, $15 right now for a liter in Japan. I don't know about the other countries, but I can only speak from my experiences. Their economic views of prosperity and development means that they're going to be making more money. They're going to be creating new things, which is development. They're going to be building more stuff. And they're talking about infrastructure. They're talking about international systems. So yeah, here it comes. Starting in 2023, they're going to start ramping this stuff up. And they're going to be pushing it pretty quickly because they're not at the pace that they wanted to be for 2030. Their 2030 agenda. So there's a lot of stuff that has happened that has stopped their growth along the pattern that they wanted over the next, there's only 8 years left. Holy crap. There's no way that we're going to make the agenda that they want in full world domination in the next 8 years. Those pesky poor people actually want something different from what I do. Well, how are we going to fix that? I'll leave that to your imagination. Because point 3 is coming up in the next video. Yay for you. And me. Okay, headwinds. Yes. Okay. I'll leave this because it's getting on 25 minutes. So, I will see you in the next video discussing the World Economic Forum, point number 3. So, stay tuned, or if you want to skip it, then, well, you're just going to skip it. I can't tell you anything about that. But you can still see my sexy face with the notification bell. Subscribe below. I'll see you in the next video or in the next couple.